I'm housing you? You're letting me live here? For a measly sum? The words from my husband make my mouth twitch in annoyance. That's right. You do no housework, sleep for 5 hours, and you're just squatting in Dennis's house. You're like the black sheep of the family. Why don't you just leave? Black sheep, huh? Who's the real black sheep here? A subtle smile escapes my tightened lips. At my mother-in-law's words, I just don't care anymore. Is that so? Well, if you insist, I'll take my leave. That was the last time I saw my mother-in-law and husband. My name is Carleen McVie. I'm 32 and work for a certain company in Boston. It's a pretty big company, work there earnestly for a decade, and you'll be in a respectable position with a decent income. 2 years ago, I also married Dennis, who works for a similar-sized company. We live in a newly built house. It must seem like smooth sailing to everyone around us. I met Dennis, who's a year older, through a friend's introduction. First impression, he seemed sincere. He often talked about his mother, and I liked that he valued family. We didn't have a fiery, romantic start, but we kinda started dating and then kinda got married. Even after marriage, we had no children because we both needed to continue working. We lived in a house too big for just the two of us, enjoying a comfortable newlywed life. Because we're both working, we often missed each other. However, we made sure to value the time we spent together, and we had no financial problems. I thought we were doing well. Well, until now. Unlike me, who's lived alone since starting college, Dennis lived with his parents until just before our marriage. Born and raised in Boston, both his college and current workplace are not far from his family home. I only know his late father through photos. Dennis was still in high school when his father passed away. Probably, he didn't want to leave his mother alone. I met that mother-in-law for the first time at a dinner arranged for both families to meet. Dennis had told me his mother was about the same age as my own, but she looked much younger, a truly beautiful woman. Nice to meet you, Carleen. My son speaks so highly of you. Please take good care of him. Mother-in-law smiled warmly as she spoke, and I couldn't sense any of the hardship she must have endured after losing her husband. Nice to meet you too, mother-in-law. I'm looking forward to becoming a family. I remember feeling relieved, thinking that this person and I might actually build a good family relationship together. Our home seemed to promise a fulfilling future, always filled with laughter and warmth. Both my parents and my mother-in-law were fully supportive of our marriage, and the preparations moved along surprisingly smoothly. We set the date for the wedding and our house under construction was nearly complete. Before embarking on our married life, we made some decisions. We agreed we'd both work for a while, so we needed to pre-plan on chores, taking care of my mother-in-law, and financial matters. Firstly, chores would be handled by whoever was available at the time. Then, regarding mother-in-law, she was still healthy and had father-in-law's inheritance, so she wouldn't struggle financially. We decided it would be best if we lived separately. Up to this point, all was good. But then came the issue of money. I thought splitting all expenses, including the mortgage, would be fair. Dennis had different ideas. Dennis proposed that I handle the mortgage payments while he takes care of the other living expenses. This gave me pause. I'd heard of couples splitting everything or pooling resources, but Dennis's suggestion was unusual. The monthly mortgage alone is $2,700. I had thought from the beginning that this was too heavy a burden. The 3-story house was too big, even if we were to have children. And the large property, mostly chosen by Dennis, seemed daunting to manage. Looking back, I realize I'd already made several wrong choices. But I wasn't thinking clearly at the time. I didn't want any financial disagreements before marriage, so I convinced myself to agree with Dennis's proposal. In addition to the mortgage, there are other costs, like groceries, utility bills, and taxes. I had no idea how much I would regret that decision later on. Every month, we put all our payments into a joint account in Dennis's name. This includes the mortgage, living expenses, travel costs, and future savings. The monthly withdrawals are hefty, but we're both high earners to begin with. Given our busy work schedules and limited time off, the joint account should have been continually growing. Why isn't there as much money as I expected? I stumbled upon it by chance. I casually opened our savings book to see how much we had saved up. Wondering if we had some major expenses, I couldn't recall anything significant. That left the possibility that Dennis might have spent on something, but he didn't mention anything during our last family meeting. We both have busy work schedules. I leave before Dennis wakes up, and he comes home after I've gone to bed. So, we often don't get to talk much, even though we live together. To break through this disconnect, we started having regular family meetings. We discuss big financial decisions like how to spend our savings and future travel plans. We just had a family meeting a few days ago. Seeing our savings dwindle without hearing anything about it at that meeting is odd. Huh? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Scanning through the latest transactions, I realized Dennis hadn't transferred his share of the living expenses for this month. I glanced at the calendar. It's been 3 days since payday. We're supposed to contribute our share by then. Maybe he just forgot? Dennis was coming home late today. I'll ask him gently tomorrow, I thought, and then forgot all about it. I didn't remember until 3 months later. Come to think of it, I never actually checked. Did he make the transfer like he was supposed to? With that thought, I open the drawer in our living room TV stand and pull out the bank book for our joint account, which is under Dennis' name. I flip through the pages and my eyes widen. What's going on here? The balance had decreased even more since last time. A growing sense of distrust fills me. I can hear my own heartbeat ringing in my ears. A sinking feeling crosses my mind, and with trembling fingers, I flip the pages back. My worst fears are confirmed. You've got to be kidding me! Household expenses haven't been transferred for 3 months. Dennis didn't come home until late that night, and we missed each other the next morning. I couldn't confront him due to our conflicting schedules and my growing unease. Finally, I catch him on the weekend and declare that we're having an emergency family meeting. Dennis reluctantly sits on the living room sofa and looks at me. His face is serious, as if he knows I've discovered the truth. You know what this is about, don't you? As much as I wanted to explode in anger, I started the conversation as calmly as possible. Dennis nods quietly. Why haven't the household expenses been paid for the last 3 months? The truth is, what Dennis told me was beyond anything I could have imagined. To cut to the chase, Dennis had quit his job without telling me. This all started 4 months ago. My coworker got promoted before me. Can you believe it? A guy less competent than me. The boss is clueless, the company's a mess. What's the point of staying at a place that can't even evaluate people properly? I was stunned. I couldn't find the words to respond. Sure, it's frustrating to be surpassed by a coworker, I get that. But we have a family, and we just built our house. Shouldn't you secure another job before quitting? Isn't that just common sense? I thought he was a man of integrity. That's why I married him. I don't know this man who speaks so foully. So what's the plan? You are going to find another job, right? Of course. I want to show them. I'm planning to get a job at an even bigger company, so cover our living expenses till then. Dennis seemed unfazed, like he didn't grasp the gravity of the situation. He didn't even apologize. Not that I need an apology. But the sense of betrayal was overwhelming. Everyone has times when they're unhappy at work and want to quit. I don't love my job every single day either. What hurt most was that he didn't even consult me first. So I agreed to cover the expenses, but only for a short time. Dennis seemed to be actively job hunting while I was at work. Initially, I thought it would be fine. There were job magazines on our living room table. I figured he'd find something soon. But months passed, and I began to realize I had been too optimistic. A year went by, and Dennis still hadn't found a job. You've been supporting me for a year now. Can't you just keep doing it? You're the one with a stable income, anyway. I was already struggling with a mortgage. The cost of living was piling up, making me work harder than ever before. I willingly took on overtime and even worked weekends. I barely had time to breathe, let alone handle chores, and I was sleep-deprived and disoriented. I almost fainted on the train to work today. Dennis's offhand comment didn't sound like a joke to me, and even if it were, I couldn't take it that way. What was the point of our marriage, of me working so hard? I began to lose sight of everything. I'm going out, I mumbled, knowing Dennis probably wouldn't hear me, and headed for the door. Today is another workday. I have to make money, no matter what. Dragging my feet to work, that's how I get through. Surviving the day on willpower alone, I finally head home, more exhausted than when the day started. It's already past 10 p.m., and it's dark outside. I'm home. As I push the door open, I notice something unfamiliar in the entranceway. A pile of cardboard boxes. What's this? They're too old and sloppily packed to be delivery boxes. Just then, the living room door opened, and Dennis appeared, his face covered in stubble. Oh, those? They're from my mom. She was having a hard time living alone, so we decided she should move in with us. What? I didn't hear anything about this. My anger surged. Living together? What on earth is he talking about? Ever since he quit his job without telling me, I've had no idea what he's thinking. I used to worry about his mother living alone. And I even thought we could have a good family relationship. But I didn't know it at the time. That my seemingly cheerful and pleasant mother-in-law would turn out to be a real piece of work. The same could be said for my husband, too. What are you talking about? She's my mother. Helping her is a given. Are you stupid or something? That's the vibe I got. At this point, my opinion doesn't matter anymore. I've had enough of understanding this through my married life. A few days later, my mother-in-law showed up with a big grin. She hugged Dennis at the front door and gave me a sarcastic smile. Oh, Carlene, you're here. I heard you're always busy with work, so I assumed you wouldn't be around. The words, "You probably don't do much housework, do you?" cracked my already fragile heart even more. My malevolent mother-in-law and my unemployed husband, Dennis. I couldn't see any hope for the future. Life with my mother-in-law was harder than I had ever imagined. When I'd get home late from work, she'd snark. "What are you doing not taking care of the house? You're failing as a wife." Dennis, far from defending me, would add insult to injury. "I'm letting you live in my house, so at least do the housework." How easy it would have been to say, "You're not working, so why don't you do it?" But no, that would only lead to more insults and emotional wounds. I didn't even have the energy to argue back anymore. My mother-in-law would just loaf around the house all day and never do any housework, as if it's the norm. Dennis had become so entitled to being taken care of that job listings magazines had disappeared from our living room. The only thing I could do while dealing with these two burdens was to work relentlessly. I needed money to live. More than that, while engrossed in my job, I could forget the harsh reality. People around me probably found it strange to see me more focused on work than I was before getting married, despite not being married for very long. Occasionally, I felt concerned glances my way, but I was grateful they didn't say anything. If someone shows me kindness now, I'm afraid I won't be able to go on. Long days of working late, catching the last train home, squeezing in just 5 hours of sleep, and then heading back to the office as soon as dawn breaks. At this point, weekdays and weekends don't even matter. But I do plan on taking a half day off sometime this weekend. And the fact that I have to use that precious half day for a family meeting to tell those two that we can't continue living like this, especially when my savings keep dwindling, almost breaks me. I knew my mother-in-law was constantly ordering food delivery, but recently even Dennis has been joining in. They've been indulging in steak and caviar during the day. What's worse, they've even been taking trips together. For now, they're just day trips, but it could escalate to international travel. I used to put extra money into our joint account, but now that I've realized how much they're spending, I only transfer just enough to cover the monthly withdrawals. In other words, if they keep up this spending, payments will start falling behind, leading to a worst-case scenario. So here we are, the three of us gathered in the living room over the weekend. The two of them, now shadows of their former friendly and genuine selves, are glaring at the papers I've spread out on the coffee table. "What's the meaning of this, Carlene? What are you trying to say with all this paperwork?" My mother-in-law squints up at me. "It's a breakdown of our income and expenses. We can't continue living like this. I told you, I'll pay it all back when I get a job. Just hold on a bit. And the mortgage is just a measly $2,700. I'm letting you live in my house, so don't make a fuss over such a measly sum." My house? You're letting me live here? Measly sum? Words I can't ignore make my lips twitch. That's right. You're the black sheep here, sleeping 5 hours a day, not doing any housework, and living in Dennis's house. Why don't you just leave? Black sheep? Who's the real black sheep here? A laugh escapes my tightened lips. At my mother-in-law's words, everything suddenly becomes inconsequential. Or maybe, just maybe, I've finally realized that there was never any need to try so hard. All right, no more bending over backward. Not for these people. I felt like a weight had lifted from my body and soul. Is that okay? Well then, I'll take you up on that and leave. My voice echoed in the once quiet living room. I must be smiling more than I ever have before. Huh? What? Both of them looked stunned, their eyes glued to the coffee table. What I smoothly pulled off and placed on top of the papers was a bundle of divorce papers. Of course, they were already filled out and stamped by me. Here, you sign it too. It'll make your mom feel more secure, won't it? Mumbling, Dennis picked up the pen from the table. He hesitated for a moment but was encouraged by his gleeful mother to sign. I'll be moving out within this month. Don't worry, I'll submit these papers to the court immediately after the move. Fine. Goodbye, black sheep. Whatever they called me, my heart was unshaken. 2 weeks later. The day had finally come. The weather was perfect, and a pleasant breeze was blowing. It was the perfect day to start a new life. I need this, and that moved, too. Yes, everything. As I instructed the movers, I was bustling around what had become someone else's home. After all, I had to move everything that was purchased with my money or had a receipt in my name. Hey, you're taking the coffee table, the sofa, and even the TV? You're stripping the living room bare. Such a sneaky cat thief. They were both following me around, shouting. To be honest, they were just in the way. If you say this house, under your name, is yours, then all of this stuff paid for by me is mine, right? I finished my last set of instructions, let out a sigh, and turned around. The two of them fell silent at my words, looking at me bewildered. I glanced at them and turned on my heel. Well then, goodbye. That was the last time I saw both of them. I completed the move without any issues and immediately submitted the divorce papers. They were promptly accepted, and I was free. Not having to share mortgage payments or contribute to a joint account was a relief, and I was surprised at how much money I had left over. I never realized I was earning this much. Over the past year, paydays had been depressing. I was genuinely shocked when I realized my monthly payments didn't even total $1,000. Later, I found out what happened to my ex-husband Dennis and my former mother-in-law after I left them. Because they lost me as the breadwinner, they started falling behind on all their bills. Demand letters started piling up at their home. Dennis, ever so proud, ignored all of it. He didn't consult with the bank or the IRS. Eventually, they were faced with demands for a lump sum payment. Unable to pay, Dennis borrowed money from a loan shark to cover it. But that wasn't the end of their problems. Realizing you can't avoid repaying loan sharks, Dennis finally swallowed his pride and started doing manual labor at a low-paying job. Had it not been for his period of unemployment, he could have found a more decent job. But that's none of my business now. As for mother-in-law, her pension wasn't enough to live on. So, she started working a part-time job. She's now a cashier and has a reputation as the lady who can't do her job right. Not surprising for someone who was ungrateful, never worked, and just ordered food delivery all the time. But, again, that's none of my business. As for me, I'm enjoying my single life. My skin has improved, and even I can tell that my expression has softened. People tell me I smile more now and that I've become more attractive. I hardly do any overtime work, and I can fully relax on weekends. I even have time to enjoy my hobbies. My life is just like it was before marriage, but because my married life was so miserable, everything now feels incredibly wonderful. I've also been getting along well with a popular guy at work. He had been interested in me for a while but hesitated to approach me because I was married. Anyway, life is smooth sailing this time around, that's for sure. I'm feeling great today. Even though we were at a fancy restaurant for work and entertainment, the room next door was inexplicably noisy. Happy birthday! Lola, you've reached an age where it's not out of place for you to be here. Dad is really happy. It seemed they were having a birthday celebration. Dad seemed a bit drunk, speaking loudly without regard for the setting. I recognized the voice. Excusing myself, saying, "Excuse me." I stood up and headed towards the source of the voice. Happy birthday! It's wonderful to see you so happy. I happen to be covering this restaurant. May I take your photo? I called out from outside the room. The family in the room went quiet for a moment. I could hear them discussing what to do inside. After a short wait, the door opened. Peeking inside, I saw the parents and daughter, all smiles. But suddenly, Dad's face turned pale. How old is the young lady? Such a lovely family. Dad seems kind, and Mom is beautiful. And the young lady is adorable. May I take your photo? Mom and daughter looked shyly pleased. It's nothing really. She's our pride and joy, Kevin. Dad, addressed with a smile, turned pale and forced a smile. Just stay as you are. Enjoy your meal naturally. After taking several photos, including a family picture, I asked for their contact information, thanked them, and left. I am Jennifer, 48. I work at a publishing company, involved in the production of a magazine. My husband Kevin is 52, 4 years my senior. He works as the executive vice president at a family-run company. Since Kevin's dad is the president, becoming the next president is the expected path. We married 25 years ago, and our only son, Levi, 22 this year, is studying abroad in England and plans to continue his research there. Kevin and I live freely in a high-rise condominium. I earn a good income, and Kevin has a decent income too, so we don't struggle financially. Life was tough when our child was born. Kevin was just an employee without a title then, without any special treatment. He worked tirelessly from early morning until late at night. Our income was low, and we lived modestly in a small apartment. Back then, daycare options were limited, making it hard to return to work. Even when I found one, I had to pick up our child at the slightest sign of illness, facing cold stares at work. I would have thought the same in their shoes. On the other hand, Kevin was reluctant to help with childcare, leaving it all to me. I'm working hard now so I can be president in the future. That's more important than childcare. If I work hard now, it'll be better for us in the future. If I succeed quickly, you can be a housewife, and we won't have to struggle. He wouldn't listen when I asked for help with childcare or household chores. He continued to insist that work was the priority for men, ignoring that I was also working. I ended up not only taking our child to the hospital in the middle of the night when he was sick, but also handling daycare drop-offs and all household chores. Kevin would go out for entertainment every weekend or just sleep at home if he was there, claiming he was tired. Meanwhile, calls from the daycare forced me to miss important work, worsening my standing at work. I was often pointed out for declining work quality due to overwork. Lack of focus made it hard to complete assigned tasks. But I couldn't give up on the job I really wanted to do. I decided not to quit and pretended not to notice the atmosphere of colleagues wishing I would take it easy. Every day was incredibly busy and tiring. I kept thinking it would get easier as our child grew up, just enduring each day. Looking in the mirror, I saw my cheeks had thinned and dark circles under my eyes. Yet, I kept pushing until I collapsed at work from the strain. I found myself in the company's infirmary when I came to. The company doctor diagnosed me with fatigue and stress, advising me to rest in bed until I felt better. When I checked the time, it was already past 6 o'clock. I had missed the pickup time for daycare. Trying to contact Kevin yielded no answer. The resident nurse in the infirmary had also tried calling him, thinking it was an emergency, but to no avail. Since I couldn't rely on Kevin, I hurried to the daycare, though still not feeling well, to avoid causing them any trouble. When I got home and was taking it easy, Kevin returned. "I'm home. What's the big deal, calling me during work hours? Don't contact me unless it's an emergency. I was in the middle of an important meeting." He seemed to have ignored the call without checking why it was made. Though I was too unwell to be angry, his indifference was deeply felt. "So, what about mine and Levi's dinner? Don't tell me there's nothing? Do I have to go out and buy something now after coming home tired?" He assumed Levi, who was energetically running around, and himself, who would normally do household chores, would be taken care of despite my ill health. Didn't he feel anything seeing me so exhausted and resting? It seemed he couldn't even bother to pick up something to eat from the nearby grocery store. Thinking about it made me feel worse, so I got up to prepare dinner, not wanting to eat a single bite myself, and served it to Kevin and Levi. Of course, cleaning up was my responsibility. I disliked leaving dirty dishes around, but my body was not cooperating today. I cleaned up, wishing for dwarves like in Snow White to finish all the chores while I rested. Overcoming such tough times, Kevin is striving at the company to become the next president, as he always said he would. Gradually, I started to take on more significant roles at the publishing company, being entrusted with editing a magazine. Levi, whom I thought of as a child, told us he would study at a university in England part way through his college years here and has been working hard there since. This left Kevin and me living as a couple, our relationship more like roommates. We were more like comrades or close friends, which was comfortable for me. Despite his higher position, Kevin remained busy, often coming home late at night, with business trips and working on weekends and holidays being the norm. I was busy with work too, often leaving the house for interviews, leading us to joke about being a couple that missed each other. We were financially stable, with both of us working, and I had a decent amount of savings, as did Kevin. We lived our lives without sweating the small stuff. Sometimes seeing Kevin run the drum-style washing machine reminded me how the man who never did household chores when Levi was young could change. Since Jennifer is busy with work, I thought I should do what I can. Dad says the same at the company, that it's not just about work, but I need to be able to do household chores too. I thought it was true that people mellow with age. He even started cooking, and sometimes I would come home to dinner prepared. It was curious how he became more domesticated after our child left. However, I was grateful for the help with chores. It was especially appreciated when I was under deadline. Living with mutual gratitude made for truly peaceful and relaxing days. Drinking the coffee Kevin made in the morning. I'll be on a business trip for about a week starting today. Sorry, but you'll have to manage on your own for a week. It wasn't unusual as he often returned from trips in 2 or 3 days, so I smiled and said, "Understood," cheerfully. Kevin, perhaps having an important matter, left in a high-end suit. Watching him go, I thought how fulfilling life made one look younger. Even if it was flattery, being mistaken for Levi's brother pleased Kevin. Proud of Kevin, who held a position of authority and looked young, I started preparing for work. Today, I had plans to visit a high-end restaurant for work, combining it with entertaining a client. I decided to wear the suit I splurged on last week at the department store. Arriving at the meeting place, I joined 2 clients and a colleague, 4 of us heading to the high-end restaurant together. It was a restaurant I wouldn't normally go to, and I was looking forward to it, even for work. The exterior was very tasteful, feeling like a place only for the truly elite. Upon arrival, we were immediately shown to a private room, chatting and saying, "What a lovely place," as we waited for our food. Soon, a loud noise, unbecoming of a high-end restaurant, started to drift over. Wondering where the noise was coming from, it seemed to be the next room. The room next door was very noisy. Even though we were here for entertainment as well, it was a letdown since I was looking forward to enjoying the upscale restaurant. "Happy birthday! Lola, you've grown old enough to not be out of place here. Dad is really happy. Truly." It appeared they were celebrating a birthday. The dad seemed a bit drunk, speaking loudly without considering the place. I recognized the voice. Excusing myself with a, "Excuse me." I stood up and headed towards the source of the voice. Could it really be who I'm thinking of? If so, what does that mean? I decided to approach and speak up. "Happy birthday! It's wonderful to see you so happy. I happen to be covering this restaurant. May I take your photo?" I called out from outside the room. The family in the room went quiet for a moment. I could hear them discussing what to do inside. After a short wait, the door opened. Peeking inside, I saw the parents and daughter, all smiles. But suddenly, Dad's face turned pale. It was hard to believe this was the same man who had been sounding so joyful. How old is the young lady? Such a lovely family. Dad seems kind, and Mom is beautiful. Of course, the young lady is adorable. May I take your photo? Mom and daughter looked shyly pleased. Mom appeared to be in her 30s. The daughter seemed just to have started middle school. It's nothing really. She's our pride and joy, Kevin. Dad, faced with a smile, turned pale and managed a strained smile. Yeah, she's cute. He probably thought it odd to suddenly fall silent after being so talkative. Nevertheless, Kevin responded to me. Is she your only daughter? That makes it even more special. We have an only son. He's quite grown up now. And I heard it's someone's birthday. Whose is it? Again, Mom and daughter exchanged smiles. The daughter looked just like Dad. With sharp features, she could probably be a model as she grows. It's my birthday. I turned 12. I'll be starting middle school soon. Today we're celebrating my middle school entrance exam success as well, so it's a double celebration. It's my first time at an upscale restaurant, and I'm thrilled, she answered. Meanwhile, Kevin kept his gaze fixed on a corner of the room as if he had found a spider web, without looking at us. Is that so? Congratulations on both counts. Please continue with your meal naturally. And at the end, I'd like to take a family photo to gift you. I'll develop it and deliver it later, so may I have your address, name, and phone number? Without any hesitation, Mom wrote down their address, name, and phone number for me. After taking several photos and expressing my gratitude, I left the room. The shock was so great that I couldn't remember anything about the upscale restaurant's ambience, the presentation and taste of the food, or what I discussed with the clients. The fact that my beloved Kevin had another family, dining in an upscale restaurant we had never been to, filled my mind completely. A young, friendly opposite of me, whom Kevin could never have with me, and the daughter we had never had. The reason Kevin was so concerned about his appearance became clear. Approaching 50, plain and rather masculine, I was no longer seen as a cute wife. I was just a roommate, and my head went blank with the realization, followed by a headache. My colleagues and clients, worried about my silent and pale demeanor, saw me leave the upscale restaurant early to return home. What started as a happy and joyful outing turned utterly dark. Feeling as if I had touched something filthy, I took a shower. While showering, I tried to wash away the accumulation in my heart with tears and screams. Crying out loud helped to calm the darkness slightly, and I started to think about what to do next. Still in shock, I blamed myself for not noticing Kevin's double life. Filled with unpleasant feelings, I had no choice but to look forward. I tried contacting Kevin, of course, with no answer. I also reached out to his work cell, but again, no response. Walking around the house, trying to gather my thoughts and call back, morning arrived. As expected, Kevin did not return home. Today being Saturday, he might really be going on a trip with the other family. He left saying it was a business trip, and probably he'll return in a week pretending as if nothing happened, claiming, I'm back from the trip. He would likely dismiss the photos as a resemblance to someone else. Deciding to proceed with a divorce, I started to take action. I signed a contract to stay at the nearby Holiday Inn until I found a good place and moved my belongings out. I would have preferred to lock Kevin out, but changing the locks on the condo wasn't so simple. It was fortunate that today was Saturday and I didn't have to work, allowing me to move most of my belongings. Though it would be much less comfortable than this house, the desire not to spend another moment in a place where such a man lives was stronger, so I took only what belonged to me. The rest, he could deal with as he pleases. The condo, once my favorite place to live, now held no appeal. To change my mood, I also booked a hair salon and massage appointment. The deeper the love, the greater the fall and anger, so I tried to keep myself busy to calm down. Unable to stabilize my emotions, I spent an emotionally unstable weekend, and then it was Monday. I developed the photos taken at the restaurant and contacted Kyla. Thank you for the other day. Can I really get the photos? Kevin went on a business trip, and he won't be back until the night after tomorrow. I'm home today though. I arranged to meet Kyla, who seemed unaware of the affair, at a cafe near the station. Kyla didn't seem to suspect that it was an affair. It pained me to confront her with the truth, but as the legitimate wife, I had no reason to hold back. The day the truth would come out was inevitable. I sat inside the cafe, waiting for Kyla to arrive. Hello, thank you for coming. Was it too much trouble the other day? It was our first time being taken there, and the whole family was so excited. Are you married, Mrs. Wilson? Kyla asked with a smile, taking a seat. It was hard to hurt such a wonderful woman, but I steeled my heart to tell her the truth. No, excitement is natural for a celebration. Yes, I'm married. We have a son, a college student currently studying in England. Actually, your daughter and he are half-siblings. I casually laid out the facts. Kyla seemed confused, taking time to understand what I was saying. Half-siblings? I'm not sure what you mean. My husband's name is Kevin Moore, and he works for a foreign company. He's not home much because of business trips, but he's very loving towards me and our daughter. He's a great dad, doing household chores when he's home. Kevin's behavior was a stark contrast to how he was when Levi was young. I sighed internally, thinking about how he wouldn't even wash a single cup back then. I then took out wedding photos and a picture of Levi at his coming-of-age ceremony from my bag to show Kyla. Yes, his name is Kevin Wilson. We married 25 years ago, as you can see. Here's Levi, looking a lot like Kevin. If you can't believe it, I have plenty of photos on my phone. Kyla's complexion went from pale to ashen. She seemed to recognize the man in the pictures as the same man she thought was her husband. What does this mean? He looks exactly like Kevin. Are you saying he's the same person? Tears spilled from Kyla's eyes, and she began to cry quietly. I wanted to comfort her, hug her shoulders. Even though she was the other woman, she too was a victim of Kevin's deception. It was clear she had been a dedicated mom, striving in household and parenting tasks. I felt terribly sorry for Kyla. I'm sorry. I didn't want to ruin your happiness. But I couldn't let things continue as they were. I have a good idea to punish that man. Will you listen? Kyla, still in shock, nodded and listened to my plan, promising to contact me if she had any questions. After discussing everything, I left her in the cafe and walked out. 2 days later, Kevin appeared to have gone to work. Of course, I had checked with his office beforehand to know this. I was waiting near Kevin's company, because I was expecting a call from Kevin soon. I waited, imagining what was about to happen. Soon, my phone rang. Hey, Jennifer. What's the deal? My colleagues are grinning at me. And when I ask why, they tell me to ask Jennifer. They even said Jennifer would come over. What's going on? It seems he conveniently forgot about what happened at the restaurant. He must think he hasn't done anything wrong. Put your hand on your chest and think about it. You know, right? For now, I'm heading to your company. Kyla and I entered the company together. The employees looked at us curiously. 2 unfamiliar women were confidently walking inside the office. Those who knew me nodded or cheered me on. As soon as we entered Kevin's department, I saw his surprised face. He probably never imagined Kyla would come too. It's been a while, huh? You were on a business trip for a week, right? I made a new friend. Turns out she's good with you, so we came together. Kevin was desperately trying to think of a way out. Kevin, you're not into polygamy, are you? You said you worked for a foreign company, but I'm curious about the difference. The colleagues watched, swallowing their laughter. Kevin looked around for help, but everyone just grinned and did nothing. Then, the president's father-in-law, Morgan, and the uncles came in. What's this, Kevin? I saw a photo of you with this woman and her daughter. What have you been up to? He slapped Kevin hard on the cheek. Dad, there's a reason for this. Kevin tried to explain in a fading voice. This foolish son. Everyone in this company knows you had another family with a woman other than your wife. Someone seems to have sent a family photo to everyone anonymously. I won't listen to any excuses. Though anonymous, everyone knew it was me. I had informed Morgan about this terrible incident beforehand, and he fully supported my decision to teach him a painful lesson by allowing a mass email to the relatives and colleagues. Morgan couldn't forgive Kevin for his actions that deviated from human decency. You're fired as of today. And I'm disowning you. Never show your face to me again. Morgan, furious, said what he wanted and, not wanting to see Kevin's face anymore, returned to the president's office with the uncles. Colleagues pointed and laughed, and Dad threw contemptuous words at him. Kevin, now helpless, looked between us, hoping one of us would help. That's how it is. I've already planned to divorce and have asked a lawyer. The lawyer will contact you about alimony and property division. I've brought the divorce papers, so if you sign them, I'll file them right away. Please fill them out quickly. He begged not to divorce, but I made him sign the divorce papers. This settles things for me, but for Kyla, it's just beginning. Kevin, what's this about? What about me and Lola? I thought we were building a warm, loving home together. My parents liked you so much, they gifted us the current condo. Have you betrayed our entire family? Do you even have a heart? Kyla seemed quiet and gentle, but that only made her anger and sorrow all the more palpable, and listening to her made me feel the pain too. Was our marriage also a lie? You said you'd file our marriage certificate, but you didn't, did you? I checked. There's no record of us being married. What am I then? If I had known this was an affair, I would never have been with you, let alone have a child. The stares from the female employees painfully pierced Kevin. It was the moment Kevin undoubtedly became the enemy of women. I understand. I'll go and file for divorce, and you and Kyla should have a detailed discussion at Kyla's place. Either way, I'll be leaving first. Goodbye. I felt truly relieved after getting back at Kevin in the worst way I could think of. It's terribly unfortunate for Kyla, but that's their problem, not mine anymore. After submitting the divorce papers at the city hall, I'll go house hunting. I'll look for a comfortable home, not necessarily as luxurious as a high-rise condo. A few days later, I received a call from Kyla. She went back to her home and discussed things with her parents. Kevin was intensely criticized, their daughter stopped speaking to Kevin, and it seems they decided to part ways. Kyla's parents are wealthy, so even without Kevin's income, it appears they won't have any trouble supporting their daughter. I was concerned about their future, so hearing they won't face any difficulties was a relief. I received a significant sum from Kevin for alimony and property division, and Morgan for the trouble caused, bought me a convenient condo near a station. Morgan also personally paid compensation to Kyla's family. It's strange how someone as principled as Morgan could have a child who turned out so differently. Now, I live in that condo and enjoy living alone. When I think about it, my life isn't much different from when I was living alone before the divorce. After everything was settled, I told Levi about what had happened. Levi was shocked, returned home immediately, and listened attentively to my story. Levi wanted to meet his half-sister and went to see her. I've decided to take a vacation and go to the UK for a change of scenery for a few months, where Levi is. Actually, this is my first time getting a passport, and I'm really looking forward to traveling abroad. I'm even considering staying longer if I like it there. I'm excited